for sure. Maria Caulfield.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to a couple of comments you made, both to Gregory Campbell but also to Ian Paisley, where you've said that WTO rules means that a hard border would have to be imposed. Where does it say that in WTO rules?
You take me beyond my knowledge, I've got to say.
But you are, the premise of what you're saying has serious implications. There is a narrative out there that's saying that a hard border will have to be imposed, whether by the EU, by the Irish government, by the British government. But where is the evidence for that?
I can't tell you where that exists in the WTO structures. What I can say is the commentary that is been widely available. But
do you not think that something has such significant impact that there are people who are Lord Trimble, for example, taking court action because they are so concerned about the implications of a backstop and a hard border, and the clear impact it could have for either community in Northern Ireland, to be saying that there needs to be a hard border without evidence that that is correct? Do you not think that's slightly irresponsible?
No, I don't, because I think anybody who looks at the commentary that's taking place from all sources...
But which sources are these? You've come here to give evidence today, and you've clearly said there will have to be a hard border under WTO rules. Where is the evidence for that?
I can't give you that, but I will return to...
So you could be wrong,
yeah.
in
effect? Okay, I don't believe I'm wrong, no, I don't believe I'm wrong, but what I'm saying to this committee is I can't give you chapter and verse as to where that...
So do you disagree with the WTO, who themselves have said that there is nothing in their rules that would impose a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland?
I will look into that. I promise I'll undertake to look into that, but I cannot give you the response today that says where that is in WTO rules. What I can say, though, is something rather different. That if there are other reasons why we can see the need to erect control.
But in your evidence today, that both to Gregory Campbell and to Ian Paisley...
No, I'm aware of the line of questioning, and I have answered as honestly as I can.
So at the moment, under the evidence, although there may be commentary to the contrary, the evidence isn't there to support your claim.
Well, it's not a question of evidence, actually. What you're asking me specifically, can I, at this moment, give you chapter and verse? And I've said, no, I can't. So I've said that to you. I can repeat it for the rest of the period that I said before this committee if you want. It won't take you or I any further in this discussion.
Okay, so Keith Rockwell, who's a WTO spokesman, said just before Christmas, not only is there nothing in the rules of WTO to say there has to be a hard border, there is nothing in their rules to say there have to be checks at a border either. What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, look, this is what I was going to come on to. Say, one thing of which I'm absolutely certain, if we were to see a very different trading regime into and out of the UK, the one thing that the European Union wouldn't accept is the capacity for the UK through Northern Ireland into Ireland to be a backdoor into the European Union economy. And at that point, the force of whatever, there would have to be control.
So it's not WTO, it's the EU who is saying
well,
that?
I'm not even saying it's the EU who is saying it. I'm saying to you that it is simply a matter of logic that the EU would not allow there being a backdoor mechanism.
Okay. So I don't know if you've read or witnessed some of the evidence sessions that we've had here. I don't think there's anyone denying that if we're not in a customs union, that there would checks wouldn't be needed because there would have to be customs checks. But the evidence that we heard from customs experts such as Carl Larson and Hans Meissen were very clear that those checks don't actually need to be done at a border. There are systems being used around the world, including in places like Rotterdam, where these checks are done away from a border at point of origin and point of destination. Yeah. Did you watch and listen to those evidence sessions?
No, I didn't, but I'm aware of them. And I would repeat what I said before, that whilst I'm aware that was said, There is nowhere in the world that has an international border of the kind we're talking about that doesn't have some form of control at the moment. And but also, simply moving away from the border doesn't resolve the problem. If something
but you're
becomes...
talking about, you gave evidence today that there will be days of traffic at various points across the border.
I use a flippant comment.
I understand that, but this has implications for people who are running businesses on both sides of the border, who are working cross-border. The evidence you've given is there would have to be checks at the border, and yet we've had contrary evidence to this committee to say that checks are needed, but they do not need to be done at the border.
I didn't say that. In fact, all the way through, I've repeated many times that I am totally opposed to being there any return to a hard border of any kind. We've got to find a way that avoids that. But in actual fact, one thing I would say to this committee is it doesn't help simply to displace by 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles. If the concern is that we create an infrastructure that can be identified as being part of a return to the concept of a border, we do create the capacity.
So in the evidence, if you actually listen to the evidence that was given to this select committee, and I would have thought as the Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, you'd be keeping a close eye on that, considering if there was a general election, you could possibly be Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, that there was clear evidence that those checks could be part of the existing checks between the VAT checks that are done between the two areas that are already in existence, that there's no need for a border at all. There are processes in place that could be used.
No, I don't agree with you. What you're describing is a situation where you simply redefine where the border impacts, and that doesn't help.
But there's a VAT border now.
But that, if we get to the point of beginning to define something that can be construed as a border, one of the consequences...
So are you unhappy about the current VAT checks that take place between the two jurisdictions now?
Clearly not. But if we begin to recreate an international border that is defined as that international border, then we do create a problem for ourselves.
But that wasn't the evidence that was given to the committee. They said there was no need for any border at all. Well,
I'm not sure that is. You're simply asking us to move the border to somewhere different from the existing line on the map. That doesn't necessarily help us.